Good morning, everyone. I'm Tracy McKibben, the chair of the Finance Committee of the Authority of the New York State Canal Corporation. I'd like to welcome my fellow committee members. Here in person is Michael Balboni. Participating virtually is Dennis Trainer and Betheda Gonzalez. Excused today is our chairman, John Comel. Welcome to the NYPA and Canal Corporation staff. This meeting has been duly noticed as required by the Open Meetings Law. I call this meeting to order. Everyone's had a chance to review the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Any questions or concerns? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda.
So move.
I think I heard a seconded, moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The agenda has been adopted. The next portion of this meeting will be in executive session. I'll ask for a motion to conduct an executive session to discuss the financial and credit history of a particular corporation pursuant to Section 105 of the Public Officers Law.
So moved.
Second.
Can I get a seconded? Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We will be back with you shortly. I'll ask for a motion to resume the meeting in open session.
So moved.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Moved and
Second.
seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. No votes were taken during the executive session. All of the committee members were polled prior to the meeting regarding conflicts and have submitted all potential conflicts to the corporate secretary for inclusion in the minutes. I'll now invite Adam Barsky, EVP and Chief Financial Officer, to present the report and the next update. Over to you.
Thank you, Trustee McKibben. Good morning, trustees, NYPA staff, members of the public. Give an update on the first 4 months of the year. And we are tracking, to plan, a little bit ahead of plan, but some of that is not, coming from all the same places in terms of we have some shortages in our generation revenues due to the warm winter and energy prices going down significantly from the first of the year. We do see some of this correcting as we look to the projections for the end of the year. And we had some better performance in non-operating income with respect to interest income and our securities portfolio doing a little bit better than planned. Otherwise, we're pretty much on track with the plan through the first 4 months of the year. And I'll now, any questions on this part?
Just a
Sure.
quick question that I had on the O&M stuff. There seemed to be a little bit of a delay. Are there any concerns? Is this a result of any supply chain overlay or drag on us? Or is this just what you expected to happen? That, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, you expect more. Is there anything we should be reading between the?
No, I think there's some timing issues with respect to some of the energy efficiency projects. The project with the MTA, for example, is happening, but was at a little bit slower than was expected. That should hopefully catch up by the end of the year. So a lot of this stuff we do hope will correct between now and the end of the year.
Is there anything that we need to do to assist that, or is it just?
Nope.
We're
Just
NYPA's in the position
mobilizing.
it needs to be and to move forward on this. We're waiting for the MTA to.
It's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just getting all the ducks in a row in order to make that project, and it's a big project. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of revenues were tied to that. Any other questions on the first 4 months? So as we look to the end of the year, we're in a range of $80 to $100 million against the plan of 95. We have every reason to believe we'll stay very close to plan based on what we know today. And some of the factors that have changed since the beginning of the year on the energy side is that while energy prices in general have gone down, that is definitely a fact, but some things have worked out to help mitigate that. One is our hedging program, so that actually has helped us mitigate the effect of lower energy revenues. And we've seen rest of state and New York City capacity prices increase significantly. Some of that is unique to our market. Some of this is based on the NOx rules that are going into effect from the DEC. That's going to cause some plants to have to go offline, which wasn't originally baked into the numbers. So that has improved those capacity numbers. And we're seeing better generation out of our hydro plants based on increased precipitation at the Great Lakes, as well as you know, the warmer winter also had the effect of less ice jams and things of that nature that would otherwise affect, you know, transmit generation as much as we would have otherwise liked. So all of those were positive to offset the energy revenues going down. Transmission revenues are doing slightly better as well. Again, some of it has to do with hedging related to HTP. So HTP is losing, let's call it less money than we would have planned. So I hate to say that's always doing better because there is no better there, except, but it's doing less worse. So put it that way. And then the non-operating revenues as well. I think we're going to see additional interest income from our investment portfolio, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Any questions on the projections?
Is there anything unique that we should be thinking about when you were looking at under the operating expense? A lot of that had to do with our monetized funds, and particularly there seemed, if I recall, there was a big portion of that for the Western New York development. Is there anything significant about why they fell in the way that they did compared to the other participants? Anything unique about that?
Yeah, so last year there was sort of, you know, a lotto winner in the sense that we had this huge spike in energy prices once the Ukraine situation happened with Russia. So the way it works is for the particular areas, whether it be St. Lawrence or Niagara, within a certain radius, if the energy prices that we sold for are greater than the tariff rate, that goes into those monetized funds. So energy prices being down this year, even from our projections, we're going to see less money going into the monetized funds than even we planned, but certainly less than last year. But the good news for them is that they got $37 million last year, which is pretty good historically for them to have something to work with. So right now the challenge is having them come up with the qualified economic development projects that we can actually use the money for. So I would say that would be the challenge right now.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anything else? So I know last meeting, we spoke a little bit about the banking situation, and one of the leading causes had to do with their investment portfolios and how they were, invested somewhat long versus, being positioned in case the rates rose, which they did significantly. So had a lot of their portfolios being underwater and caused some of those problems. So I felt it was a good opportunity for us to talk a little bit about our investment portfolio. We have about $1 billion or so to invest on a regular basis. Most of it is very short term, very high quality. Our goals are, safety, right? Quality is foremost, needs to be liquid to meet our liquidity needs. And then, also just to minimize risk for interest rate risk. If interest rates go up or down, manage that, and then getting the best yield given all those constraints. So our portfolio, just to back up, during the pandemic, when rates went to zero, we basically liquidated our entire portfolio and kept it very short in money market funds, short-term treasuries. We weren't getting paid to go out the yield curve, so there was no point in investing in that. Now that rates have gone up significantly, we've started putting the money to work. And again, making sure that we're within our parameters, we don't go too long, and we're always positioned if rates were to rise. We still are very well positioned if rates are to rise. Now, we're actually a little bit under invested if rates were to go down. So when we look out, we try not to make interest rate bets, but we want to be positioned whether or not they go up or down. So as we look out, we're seeing, based on the Wall Street projections of various different firms and the Fed, it's possible we could see rates going down by this time next year up to about 200 basis points. So then the question is, okay, what do we do in that situation? So we might want to start investing some of our portfolio a little bit longer, so that if those rates come down, we're locked into higher yielding securities. But if you see the breakdown on the chart, we're mostly right now in money markets, treasuries, agencies, which are, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, small investment in municipal securities, and agency MBS, mortgage-backed securities, which, they do provide a better yield given the credit than some other securities, but we try to keep that allocation a little bit lower because of the optionality of those securities. Right now, our duration of portfolios is 1.5 years, and we would not like to go any longer than 2 in terms of duration, in terms of what happens in the changes of the portfolio given changes in the interest rate. Next slide.
So before we go
Yep.
on, so as you think about, in light of the comment you just made, if, where we're positioned, if although no one knows, if interest rates were to rise, where would you try to find where would you then, you think, from this standpoint today, you're more likely to go? If you look at where we are today, we're in money markets, which is where a lot of people went as a result of, sort of the regional bank crisis. So what are your thoughts on?
Yeah, I think what we would do is move from money markets into some of the agency securities that could be pegged to a little bit longer maturity, slightly more in the MBS, but being choosy as to which ones we choose so that we're not overly subject to prepayment risk, right? If interest rates are to go down, the effect on those securities when rates go down. So we want to try to be a little bit longer, where if rates go down for at least another year or 2, beyond that, we can still get the higher yield.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because we're always having securities mature and that money gets reinvested. So if rates go up, it gets reinvested into higher yielding securities. If rates go down, that money is being reinvested into lower yielding securities. So we try to get a little more balance. Right now, we're overly balanced for rates going up, which is a good thing in this environment. But as we look towards the possibility of rates going down, we want to be just a little bit more protected, without making a huge bet in any way, but just for additional protection as we think about what might happen in the next few years.
And I know we have advisors, but do we look similar? Do we look like similarly placed institutions when you look at our breakdown, and even in duration, like maturity? Do we look like other similarly situated?
Probably, if anything, more conservative.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we did liquidate everything.
Right.
And unlike some other governmental accounting or enterprise accounting, like we are in, the reason why we do try to control this so much is because the unrealized gains and losses that are created from changes in interest rates flow through our income statement rather than sit on the balance sheet. So if we were in private, anytime there was an unrealized gain or loss, that's being reflected on the balance sheet as a component of your net equity in something they called accumulated other comprehensive income. So it sit over there. You wouldn't see it on the income statement. In governmental accounting, every fluctuation every month is making noise through the income statement. So we want to minimize the noise.
Great. Thank you.
Next slide. So another thing we do, again, we try to create our own sort of risk appetite, as I said, to that noise. So what we do is we look at the portfolio and we shock it, by up 100, 200, 300, or down 100, 200, 300 in a parallel rate move to see what impact that would have at any given time on our unrealized gain or loss. And for an up, or like I would say for a down or an up 200 basis point move from here, which would be, I would say, less likely, but possible, not entirely impossible. We wouldn't want to see that to be anything more than 50 million as a negative number. And again, this is all temporary. As long as you hold these securities to maturity, it all comes back to zero. So these are never realized losses unless you actually had to sell those securities. So the idea is that you hold these securities through their maturity, and they're all AA plus rated, right? 99% of our portfolio is rated AA or better, all US backed government securities or highly rated municipal securities or AAA rated money market funds, which is made up of highly rated treasuries and agencies. So that's just something we do. We do this sensitivity analysis so that we know what would happen in those different scenarios. So just to give people a sense of where we are compared to, say everyone else. I think we're in a good spot, very conservative, but again, trying to position ourselves a little bit so that we don't find ourselves in where we're losing interest income if rates were to go down.
Generally
Sure.
speaking, could you just give us a sense now that they're taking a look at the sensitivity, the kind of market position we're in, what's going on with some of the economic factors? Do you see this as a high risk period, generally speaking, not specifically if it's a securities, but what's the background? Inform us as we look at this.
So there are two major factors today that, and I'll put sort of recession over here a little bit, but two major factors at this moment. One is the banking crisis.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think we're out of the woods there yet. There are many other banks in the same situation as First Republic and Silicon Valley and Signature, the smaller community banks. In fact, those events have exacerbated their problems because people have pulled their money out of those smaller banks and moved it into the big guys, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. So there's been a huge shift of deposits that have left those banks, exacerbating this problem. The other banking problem we see around the horizon is the commercial real estate. So as various commercial real estate, CMBS, commercial mortgage-backed securities or other commercial real estate loans start coming due, we do think that that's going to create a lot of problems for various banks because we think there's going to be huge, issues with commercial real estate loans going bad. So we see that on the horizon as well. So those are two big factors that may affect banks. And when the banks start having some problems, could affect the market, would actually, and when it has happened, it's created a little bit of a rally because people have gone, flight to safety. So it's actually rallied the market a bit based on the Fed response to it. The other big factor is the whole debt ceiling debate. So, as the federal government starts teetering on defaulting on its obligations, that's going to cause a lot of volatility in the market. People are going to move money around that, worried about what's going to happen with that. So as that gets resolved, we hope it does get resolved. Treasury Secretary Yellen said she may run out of money by June. Well, that's not too far away. They may have some emergency measures they try to, do to extend that. There've been all kinds of talk about invoking the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. So there's a lot of different theories around how they're going to try to work that out and resolve it. But the longer that becomes unresolved, the market doesn't like uncertainty. So that'll cause some volatility. So assuming we get through those two major events, now the eyes are going to be on sort of, where are we vis-a-vis a recession? And to the extent that, I think we are at the top of the interest rate hike cycle. We're getting very close to it. And some of the banking noise has actually had the effect of causing further tightening for monetary policies because banks are starting to lend less. So it's having, the banking issue had the effect of almost a 25, 50 basis point rate hike in and of its own. So I think we're at the height of that. But what's going to happen is if we start slipping into recession, given all these other issues, then all of a sudden the Fed's going to have to pivot sometime between the end of the year or early next year and start lowering rates, if that's the case. But assuming inflation is, seems like it's also peaked and under control. So those are the big picture factors that are sort of being thought about out there.
Can you remind me who our investment portfolio advisors?
So yeah, so if you go to the next slide too, so we have an advisor that advises us based on a flat fee, and that's Piper Sandler. They give us sort of about, they help us with sort of asset allocation, market color. They help us with making sure all the trades are executed. So they provide a lot of resources for us to manage this type of portfolio, given the limited number of staff we have. But when they put through these orders, they trade with broker dealers that we've pre-approved. And if you see here, one of the mandates we've given them is to maximize the use of MWBE broker dealers. So we've done 50% of our trades with MWBE
That's
broker
what I was
dealers.
wondering. I saw the number, but I was like, what is that actual percentage? Because I don't know how much we trade. So this is 50% of what we're. our activity-
So of the
our trade
transactions,
activity.
we moved 1.3 billion purchase and sales since 22, when this was tracked, and 50% of those trades went to MWBE firms.
Okay, so it's half of the 1.3. I thought
Yes.
the 1.3 was with the MWB.
No, it's half of that.
So it's half of that.
Yep.
Okay, understood.
And well, it's 400 with MWBE, 272 with service disabled veteran organizations.
Right. Yes.
So we do, just to, make the committee aware that there is a mandate we're given to the managers. And
Wonderful.
any other questions?
Very good.
Thank
B,
you.
Dennis, any other questions? Just want to.
No questions.
Thank you. Right. No votes are necessary. This was just an update and reporting. Okay, Adam, you've already gone through the investment portfolio. I'll now invite Dave Mellen, Regional Manager at SVB, to present his item for the board. Welcome. Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see everyone. So this is relative to a capital expenditure authorization. The request is for the approval of the expenditure of capital funds to reimburse New York State DOT for the rehabilitation of the Erie Canal lift bridges on State Route 19 in the village of Brockport and on Route 98 in the village of Albion for a 2-year term in the estimated amount of $27.3 million. A little bit of background, in 2015, an agreement was put into place between the New York State DOT and the Thruway Authority, Canal Corporation. That agreement, in essence, defined who was responsible for what for 19 lift bridges across the system. In 2017, that agreement was assigned to the New York Power Authority. And the essence of that agreement is that all the capital improvements of all lifting and movement components and mechanisms of the lift bridges are owned by the Canal Corporation Power Authority, and the rest of the required work is owned by the DOT. Okay, so for example, the electrical, the machinery, and the related components necessary to lift the bridge in the air so boats can go underneath it. That is our responsibility. Both of these bridges, and the Canal Corporation remains responsible for maintenance and operation of all lifting components and mechanisms. So it's the repair and the ongoing maintenance. Both of these bridges were built in 1914, so they're roughly 109 years old. Severe deficiencies in both bridges. The DOT has a program that we rely upon that inspects the bridges every 2 years. Canal staff and DOT staff work closely on this part of our portfolio in terms of understanding the condition and the risks. And what I'm asking here today is not the first time that we've gone through this. NYPA previously reimbursed DOT for the canal share of the rehabilitation of 2 bridges in 2022, Fairport and Spencerport. So it's basically a rehabilitation of canal infrastructure project. The design of the work started in 2018. The contract was awarded to Crane Hogan, I think, in structural systems in early or late 2022, and the work started. So work is actually underway at this point. So that project includes both bridges that we're talking about here today, and our share, the share related to the lifting mechanisms and components, is 68%, and that's basically a breakdown of the work, and that work that relates to our responsibilities is our costs, and the rest goes to DOT. And that 68% equates to 27.3 million. A little bit about just the overall scope of work. It eliminates all the deficiencies that have been identified, extends the service life by 30 years. restores load carrying capacity. Construction work started in November 2022. The prime contractor who has the award of this contract is an SDVOB contractor. And then the 27.3 million can be broken down, and the largest component of that is the construction cost. And there's design and construction support and construction inspection. So the request is for the approval of the expenditure of these funds.
Great, thank you. Any questions? I see that, obviously this agreement was signed before we took over the canal, right? Back in 2017, and construction just started last year. Are we comfortable with the timeline? When you state there are deficiencies, this was built in 1914. We have our role, which is, as you've just described at the crate, but we're comfortable with the timeline for repairing this bridge and getting it into a state that we feel meets our safety standard, was a question that I had.
Yeah, construction of the work is anticipated to be complete by July of 24.
Okay.
And the nature of the work, the repair work, in essence, takes the bridge and lifts it up in the air and removes it from the site and repairs it at a nearby location. So as soon as that first part of the construction process is underway, any safety concerns are eliminated.
Any other questions? Thank you. I will ask for a motion to recommend this item to the full board for adoption.
So moved.
Moved, I think I heard a seconded in there. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'll now invite Eric Firnstein. Firnstein. Great, who's Director of Labor Relations, to present the next item.
Hello, everyone. Just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak about the UWA negotiations. The term of the new contract is January 1st, 2023 to April 30th, 2028. It's a 64-month contract. The wage increases that were agreed to start at 3.5%, which is retroactive to January 1st, and then 3.25 for the remainder of the contract. There were some minor modifications to benefits for dental and disability benefits, and we standardized the leave coverage for military to basically make it the same as it is for management. For the retiree medical, we brought it in line with the IBW contract. For employees who retire under the contract or become eligible for Medicare, will transition to NYPA's Medicare Advantage PPO plan and the associated prescription drug plan. And then we had other minor enhancements just for the meal allowance, the midnight premium, and the station engineer license. And we formally added Juneteenth to the holiday schedule. It was already being recognized, but we formalized it in the contract. Next slide. I think is that good.
That's it. So
Okay.
a question that I had was.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I want to make sure that my math is correct, which is always dangerous. Over the next 4 years, this is a 16.5% salary increase, right? Is that how, am I reading that correctly? If you look at each year.
Well, the compound wage increase that benefits, or I'm sorry, that budget's calculated was 17.63, which is in line with the IBW, which was 17.65. And the average wage increase over the life of the contract based on the number of months it's in place is 3.09%, which is at exactly the same as the IBW was.
Great, okay. Great, well, congratulations. Dennis, does this look good to you?
This looks good to me. I'm very happy. I think it's a good contract. Anytime a contract comes together, it's good.
Much
Right,
appreciated.
great.
25 people.
Right? How many people does this impact?
25
25.
active employees.
Okay, thank you.
25 or
Yeah,
2,500?
25 active employees for UWA.
All right, I'll ask for a motion to recommend this item to the full board for adoption.
So moved.
Think I heard a second, moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Eric.
Appreciate it.
You now have, sorry?
Oh, I said I appreciate it.
Yeah, okay. You now have the consent agenda before you for adoption. I'll ask for a motion to adopt the consent agenda if there are no questions or concerns.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda adopted. The next joint finance committee meeting is scheduled to be held on June 27th. I'll ask for a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.